My wife went to the club wearing a revealing dress to meet her affair partner, but she didn't expect divorce papers waiting at home. I'm 32, married, or at least I was. I grew up in a family that emphasized loyalty and honesty above all else. My father always told me, if you don't have trust, you don't have anything. I carried that belief into every relationship I had, including my marriage. My wife and I met in our late 20s, and everything seemed perfect, or so I thought. She was vibrant, outgoing, and someone who always made people laugh. I was captivated by her energy, but over the past few months, things began to change. She started becoming distant, her phone always glued to her hand, screen turned away from me. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but something felt off. I chalked it up to stress from work, or maybe just a rough patch. That was until last weekend, when everything unraveled. The day started like any other. I was in my office working on a project when she walked in, dressed in a revealing outfit I'd never seen before. "Where are you going?" I asked casually, trying to hide my surprise. She hesitated for a second. "Out with some girlfriends. We're just hitting up a club downtown." "Don't wait up." It was the way she said it, too rehearsed, too dismissive, that made my stomach twist. She'd always been open about her plans before. This secrecy was new. "Why didn't you mention this earlier?" I asked. "You know we had plans to watch that movie tonight." She rolled her eyes. "It's just a last-minute thing. You can watch the movie without me." Her tone was cold, final. I didn't push it, but the seed of doubt was already planted. After she left, I sat in silence, trying to shake the nagging feeling that something wasn't right. That's when I decided to check our shared calendar. Her plans weren't listed, which was odd because she was usually meticulous about keeping it updated. My gut told me to dig deeper. I started looking through our bank statements online. That's when I noticed several charges from a high-end club she'd never mentioned before. These weren't small tabs either, hundreds of dollars spent in a single night. And they weren't recent. They dated back months. I didn't want to jump to conclusions. I decided to wait for her to come home and talk it out. But as the hours ticked by, my patience wore thin. Around midnight, I decided to take matters into my own hands. Using the GPS tracker on her car, a feature we'd installed for safety reasons, I located her downtown at a club. I debated whether to confront her right then and there, but decided against it. I didn't want a public spectacle. Instead, I stayed up, waiting for her to return. When she finally walked in at 2 a.m., I could smell the alcohol and perfume on her before she even spoke. "Had fun?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "Yeah," she said, kicking off her heels. "I'm exhausted. Going to bed." I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but I held back. I knew I needed proof, real, undeniable proof, before confronting her. The next morning, while she was out running errands, I accessed her laptop. She had always been bad with passwords, often reusing the same ones. Within minutes, I was in her email. What I found there shattered me. There were dozens of messages between her and someone I didn't recognize, a man. They were graphic, detailing plans to meet up, including references to the club and even a hotel. My hands trembled as I scrolled through the messages. One in particular stood out. It was from the night before. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that dress I love." That was all the confirmation I needed. My wife wasn't out with girlfriends. She was with him. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I decided to consult a lawyer. I wanted to know my options and how to protect myself. The lawyer was blunt. "If she's been unfaithful and you have evidence, you're in a strong position, especially if you want to file for divorce." We discussed my assets. Thankfully, most of what I owned was either inherited or purchased before our marriage. The house, my savings, even the car, all in my name. The lawyer assured me that, given the circumstances, she wouldn't be entitled to much. But, he warned, she'll likely put up a fight. Be prepared. After my meeting with the lawyer, I decided I wasn't going to let her off the hook easily. She betrayed me, but I needed to play this smart. I gathered every piece of evidence I could. Screenshots of her emails, bank statements showing the extravagant charges, and even the GPS logs showing her trips to the club and nearby hotels. I also installed a small camera in our living room to record her behavior at home, just in case things escalated. When she returned that evening, I pretended everything was normal. I made dinner, cracked a few jokes, and even asked about her girlfriends. She lied effortlessly, going on about how much fun they'd had and how she needed nights like that to blow off steam. Her confidence in her lies was staggering, and it only fueled my resolve. Over the next few days, I contacted our financial institutions and froze our joint accounts. The lawyer had advised me to act quickly to prevent her from draining any shared assets. She noticed almost immediately. "Why can't I access our account?" she asked, her tone sharp. "Bank's doing some security updates." I lied. "It should be resolved soon." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't press further. I knew it was only a matter of time before she started to panic. The following weekend, she announced she was heading out again. This time, I didn't bother pretending. "Who are you meeting?" I asked bluntly. She froze. "What do you mean?" "I told you it's just the girls." "Cut the crap," I said, standing up. "I know you're not meeting your friends. I've seen the emails. I've seen the charges. And I know about him." Her face turned pale. "What are you talking about?" she stammered, trying to regain composure. I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots. "This," I said, my voice cold. "This is what I'm talking about." Her reaction was a mix of shock and fury. "You went through my emails? That's a violation of my privacy. And what about our marriage?" I shot back. "What about the vows we took? You violated those the moment you decided to sneak around behind my back." The confrontation turned into a screaming match. She denied everything at first, then tried to justify it. "You don't understand. I've been feeling neglected. You're always busy with work, and I needed someone who could give me attention." "Neglected?" I laughed bitterly. "You're the one who insisted on living this lavish lifestyle. You wanted the house, the car, the vacations. I've been working my ass off to provide for you. And this is how you repay me?" She didn't have an answer. Instead, she turned to guilt-tripping. "I've sacrificed so much for this marriage. I deserve to be happy." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You think this is about happiness? You've been lying to me for months, spending our money on some lowlife, and now you want to play the victim?" The next morning, I served her divorce papers. She was furious. "You're really doing this? After everything we've been through?" "You made this choice," I said. "Not me." That's when the entitlement kicked in. "Fine," she snapped. "But don't think you're getting rid of me without paying up. I've put years into this marriage, and I deserve my fair share." Her arrogance was astounding. I reminded her that most of our assets were in my name or predated our marriage, but she didn't care. She threatened to take me to court, claiming she'd make my life hell if I didn't agree to her demands. Despite her threats, I knew she had some leverage. Legally, she could argue for spousal support, especially since she'd quit her job shortly after we got married. My lawyer had warned me about this possibility, so we began negotiating a settlement. I offered her $10,000, enough to cover a few months' rent and expenses while she got back on her feet. She scoffed at the amount. "That's all you think I'm worth?" "It's more than you deserve," I said. "But if you want to drag this out in court, be my guest. Just remember, I have the evidence of your affair. Judges don't look kindly on infidelity." Her bravado faltered at that. She knew I had her cornered, but her pride wouldn't let her back down completely. After a week of back and forth, we settled on $20,000. It stung to write that check, but it was worth it to have her out of my life. With the settlement agreed upon, the next step was getting her out of the house. Legally, she had no claim to it, as it was purchased with my assets before the marriage. Still, she acted as though she was entitled to stay. She dragged her feet on moving out, citing excuses like, "I need time to find a place, and you can't just throw me out on the street." I gave her 2 weeks, more than enough time to sort her living arrangements. But as the deadline approached, she made no effort to pack or leave. Instead, she continued to live as though nothing had changed. Shopping online, ordering takeout, and even hosting a few of her friends. One evening, I came home to find her and a group of women lounging in the living room, sipping wine and laughing loudly. When I walked in, she barely acknowledged me. "This is still my house," I said, setting my briefcase down. "And you're supposed to be out by Friday." Her friends exchanged awkward glances, but she just smirked. "You're such a buzzkill. Can't you see I'm trying to enjoy my last few days here?" I clenched my jaw, but didn't respond. Instead, I went upstairs, locked my bedroom door, and called my lawyer. He advised me to file a formal eviction notice if she refused to leave. It was a frustrating process, but I was prepared to do whatever it took to get her out. The next day, I handed her the notice. She looked at it, then crumpled it up and tossed it on the floor. "You really are a piece of work," she said. "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me? What you've done for me?" I shot back. "Let's not rewrite history. You've lied, cheated, and spent my money like it was Monopoly cash. If anything, you should be grateful I didn't press charges." Her entitlement was infuriating, but I refused to let her get under my skin. I reminded her that she had until the end of the week to vacate the premises or face legal consequences. To my surprise, she finally started packing that evening. But even in her final days, she couldn't resist taking jabs at me. "I hope you're happy," she said as she carried a box to her car. "You'll end up alone, and you'll deserve it." "I'll take alone over betrayed any day," I replied calmly. By Friday afternoon, she was gone. I changed the locks immediately and finally felt a sense of relief. But my work wasn't over yet. I still had to rebuild my life financially and emotionally. About a month later, I received an email from her. The subject line read, "Can we talk?" Against my better judgment, I opened it. She apologized for everything, claiming she'd made a mistake and missed what we had. "I realize now that I took you for granted," she wrote. "Can we meet to talk things over?" I didn't bother responding. Her actions had spoken louder than any apology ever could. Instead, I forwarded the email to my lawyer, just in case she tried to stir up trouble again. As time passed, I began to focus on myself. I reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and poured my energy into work. The divorce had been a painful experience, but it also taught me valuable lessons about boundaries, trust, and self-respect. Months passed, and the storm surrounding my divorce began to settle. My finances were stable again, my home was peaceful, and I finally started to feel like myself. I was in no rush to date or rebuild my personal life in that way, but I was content, which was more than I could have said a year ago. I learned through mutual acquaintances that my ex-wife was struggling. Apparently, the settlement money was gone within a few months. She had tried to maintain the lavish lifestyle she was used to, but without access to my bank account, it wasn't sustainable. Rumors swirled that she was bouncing between friends' couches and looking for someone new to support her. At first, I felt a pang of guilt. Despite everything, I never wished ill upon her. I just wanted her out of my life. But then I remembered her betrayal, the audacity of her actions, and the entitlement she carried throughout the entire process. Any sympathy I felt was quickly replaced by the resolve to never let someone like her manipulate me again. One final loose end remained: the travel guide she had cheated with. I hadn't thought about him much since the divorce, but curiosity got the better of me. A quick social media search revealed he had been fired from his job. Apparently, multiple complaints had been filed against him for unprofessional behavior, and my lawyer's letter to the tour company had been the final nail in his coffin. Seeing this brought a strange sense of closure. It wasn't about revenge, it was about accountability. For once, it felt like people were facing the consequences of their actions, something my ex-wife had avoided for far too long. Reflecting on everything, I realized that the divorce was a blessing in disguise. It forced me to reevaluate my priorities, set boundaries, and focus on what truly mattered. I rediscovered a sense of self-worth and learned to trust my instincts. The journey wasn't easy, but I came out stronger on the other side. If nothing else, I was grateful for the clarity it brought to my life. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe for more tales of justice, resilience, and a bit of well-deserved karma. Who knows? The next story might just be your favorite yet.